I'm Jack Emmert, Chief Creative Officer of Cryptic Studios here at Indianapolis at Gen Con, the world's largest hobby game convention. Yep, you can create your own race. We're giving tools so that people, your skin, your eyebrows, your antennae, your hair, everything. We're doing everything we did with Champions, but we're adding to it to make sure that we can allow players to really bring to life any sort of race they can imagine. Maybe it's something mentioned in Star Trek but never shown. Maybe it's something they've added in their own fan fiction. Whatever it is. I think, yeah, just humanoid is where we'll start. We'll eventually go to other places, but I think pretty much we're going to be aiming at just humanoids for launch.
Okay.
Luckily, that's mostly Star Trek. Very few non-humanoid races. I wonder why. So in terms of customizing, you can customize your ship exteriors, the geometry. You can add colors, decals, even come up with the name of your ship, the serial number, but also the interiors. We want to allow players to do some level of customization. Now, admittedly, we're going to have this within some limits. Federation ships, for instance, have a certain kit. In other words, certain look, a certain feel, but within those limits, we'll have the ability for players to tweak them. It'd be great if we can allow people to customize the decks and their layouts and where the rooms are, but I'm not sure whether that'll be in for release or not. Starfleet and Klingon. Yeah. So 2 factions, full PvE content, and those 2 factions will compete indirectly for resources and directly in PvP. Yeah, Starfleet versus Klingons. Okay. Maybe we'll do some sort of war games where you can fight against people within your faction. That's certainly within the canon. I could think of a next-gen episode, in fact, where Picard and Riker face off. That's something we might do. Yeah, war games would be part of their lifestyle, I'd imagine. So there might be some sort of dueling within faction, but the primary focus of PvP would be between Starfleet and the Klingons. Well, Perpetual faced some hard choices, and they were in a position where they knew they couldn't complete the game. And they came to us when it was their decision not to move forward or find funding in other ways, and we purchased the license from them, and yeah, the rest is history. We had pretty friendly, cordial relationship with them, and so that led to us always being in communication, and so when the opportunity came up, we took it. I mean, Star Trek is such a great IP that it makes perfect sense for an MMO.
Exact number either, so.
I'll be honest, I really didn't read any of their documents. I talked with their team briefly for about an hour, but that was months and months and months ago. Everything we've done. If there happen to be resemblances, great, because Perpetual guys were really cool. They were really into it. I'm sure that great minds will think alike, but we didn't consciously lift anything. Well, see, there's a big difference between Cryptic and another MMO company is that we're starting with an engine. So the minute we get a license, we got the license, we could start working on in-game assets. We're not spending a year or 2 years building an engine or licensing an engine and then trying to port it to do what we want it to do. And I think that's usually the reason why an MMO company takes so long to make something. It's not necessarily the game or the content. It's you have to do that plus the infrastructure, the pipeline, the tools to enable people to do that stuff. And we already have it with Champions, right? We're shipping next spring, boom. All right, Star Trek, boom. We just use the engine, make some tweaks to make it appropriate for Star Trek, done. Well, yeah, but we already have flight. It's not like we weren't already used to dealing with players working in 3D. Now, that isn't to say that there aren't things that we need to do for ships, but at least we had a good starting point. Yeah, I think that ship combat's going to be very tactical. It's going to be more like, well, slow ship, tall ship combat, I should say, and not really dogfightery. But I think the ground combat, at least as we have it now, is much more fast-paced than a typical MMO. It's not a console-like action like Champions, but you know, you've got phasers, you have energy weapons, disruptors, shields, and so I think that right now the pace we're looking for is far more rapid. There's nothing preventing it.
Okay.
Except for business.
Okay.
But yeah. Yeah, we're always thinking about going to console because we have the technology to do it, and very, very few companies have that, and so it would be silly for us not to consider it. But I don't really consider it a limitation because we didn't have to dumb down Champions even a little bit for the console. We look at, you know, there are a lot of really good games, you know, that did some things that Mass Effect, Tabula Rasa, Hellgate, that have introduced some kind of cool mechanics that maybe we're going to look at for inspiration to make something not quite so straightforward, because we want to bring Star Trek to life. I don't want to just create an MMO that happens to have a Star Trek skin on it. And that's something that I really want to avoid.